Decided already? Okay, so Elijah, okay, have you addressed using the correct framework? Yeah? Yeah, I have no idea why my dog is like barking like so loud today. Maybe she needs the bathroom, I don't know. Hey, can we move on to the next question? Yeah, we move on to the next question. Alright, so I want you all to type out one challenge that you have encountered for the last question. Okay, while you all type out, okay, let me check out what happened to the dog. I don't know how to properly lay out points in the essay. Okay, do we have any other challenges? 1 second. Coming out with the reasons. Don't know whether we need to compare with other policies or just unintended consequences limitations. Right, okay, we can see that Ash, okay, what are your challenge? Okay, you can type it out. Okay, so we have very different issues here. And I just want to apologize again. My dog is normally not like this. Okay, I think she has a she needs to go to the bathroom. Maybe later during the break I bring her down later. Alright, okay, I've gotten all your challenges. Now let's look at the approach for this question. How do you for question E, I think I can't find more than 1 or 2 effects. Alright, okay, so what do y'all think what topic do y'all think question E is asking? And remember, always go through this thought process. Okay, what topic? What topic do y'all think is this related to? It's important to form, okay, an impression or an idea behind what is this question. Okay, so I have government intervention. So Nat, okay, I want you to think through why would government intervene? Alright, I have Zach who brought up a policy. Okay, so why is policy being used here? Okay, so I have market failure. Okay, so we are quite close. Okay, so for those who brought up market failure, what kind of market failure is present here? What kind of market failure is present here? It's close. Okay, overconsumption of fuel. So what does overconsumption of fuel tells us? What kind of market failure is that? A positive externality. A fuel. Think through. Fuel is normally related to what kind of externality? We are close, we are very close. I think Elijah is one of the closest. What kind of externality is this? So this is what you all often encounter. I'm not answering the question. Okay, so yes, negative externalities is present here. Okay, so can we agree that one of the points here is negative externalities, right? Okay, so the government, let's phrase the question properly. Okay, so the government should reduce fuel subsidy, okay, because of, should or should not? For when there's presence of negative externality, I forgot. Should or should not? In the presence of negative externalities, should we or should we not? This question is challenging. Alright, so we have should reduce consumption. To reduce consumption, should not subsidize. Okay, so should not subsidize means should reduce lah, right? Okay, so okay, great. Okay, we have one. We've got one point already. Okay, so we should reduce. Agreed, because of negative externalities. Okay, so we agree that the principle behind fuel subsidy that is going to result in overconsumption of fuel, right? So if we were to take back fuel subsidy, it acts like a what? If we were to reduce fuel subsidy, it acts like that's the T word. It acts like a tax. Then we can curb the overconsumption problem. Make sense? So from a diagram perspective, this is how it looks like. I'm so sorry, I already drawn this already. I forgot to erase this. Okay, you probably need this diagram later. Okay, so you want to illustrate how a reduction, okay, of your fuel subsidy will act like a tax. Okay, call this minor subsidy. Okay, and it can curb your consumption to your socially optimal level. And for those who are familiar with this, you can use this. Right, like what I've said, okay, for these few lessons, okay, we are going to work from backwards. Okay, we are going to learn from practice. Okay, I'm not going to okay, I'm not going to go through content excessively. Okay, so its content is touch and go. We'll pick along the way. Alright? So now I want you guys to think of a counterpoint. Okay, is there a counterpoint of reducing? Should not reduce, or rather should not reduce. Why is there should not reduce? Okay, before we go into the overall framework. So you realize that negative externalities work here, right? Okay, so I want you guys to highlight this. Government. Right, whenever you encounter a government-based question, okay, it is almost always related to objectives. Okay, so whether a government should or should not reduce fuel subsidy depends on the objectives, right? What objectives do they want to achieve? Make sense? Okay, so now I want you all to adopt this approach. So when we reduce fuel subsidy, it's going to correct negative externalities. Okay, so what objective is achieved here? Okay, what kind of objective, what kind of micro objective is this? Okay, for students who have been with me, okay, I often advocate the 2 E's. What are the 2 E's? All right, so correct. We have a net. Okay, allocative efficiency. Okay, so make sure you are familiar with the 2 E's. Efficiency and equity. At least for micro, these are the 2. When we move on next year to macro, then we will have more. We'll have more objectives. Okay, but for now, okay, we can use the micro framework to address this, no problem. Okay, so for the efficiency side, we know that, okay, we can address allocative efficiency. We can curb the overconsumption of fuel. We can reduce negative externality. Okay, so do we agree? Okay, this is efficiency. Yep. So what is the basis of not reducing? Okay, which is the other objective that is not mentioned? And we can go through the same approach. Question D is also like this. Okay, once you can go through elimination, you realize that it's often the other one that is not present that's going to be tested. Right? So it's going to result in inequity, right? Okay, so the objective that we want to be concerned about is equity. So why shouldn't we cut fuel subsidy? Because it will worsen inequity. Okay, so the objective that we want to protect here is equity. So how does fuel subsidy work? Okay, so for those who are not familiar with the school of thought of equity, these are some of the terms that I will recommend you to use. Number one, okay, you want to illustrate lower income earners. How are they affected as a result of cutting of fuel subsidy? Okay, you realize that for lower income earners especially, they will be priced out of the market. Why? Because they do not have sufficient purchasing power, as a result of a lack of fuel subsidy. Right? And when they are priced out it means that they have no access to the good. There's ineffective demand for the good. Especially fuel, they are necessity good. Right? So you realize that this will lead to an inequitable outcome. It's not fair to the lower income earners as compared to the higher income earners. It's always a comparison. I'm going to show you an alternate framework here. I'm running a bit short on time. But I believe these 2 points is good enough. So for 8 to 10 mark question, you need 2 points. 2 points. You don't need more. Later in the answer key, I will show you more variation. But at the very least, you need these 2 points. So I'm going to show you an alternate variation. So you realize that in modern days, questions are phrased differently. There's another way of asking. You may want to copy this down. This is a very likely question. They will ask you, discuss the factors that the Indonesian government should consider, when they reduce fuel subsidy. So instead of using should, they paraphrase it. Discuss the factors that the Indonesian government that would consider when they want to reduce fuel subsidy. So this kind of phrasing will require you to use as another approach. This approach is actually more sound. It can be used in this should and should not question as well. So we will encounter such questions in one of the upcoming practice series. I'm going to just touch on this briefly. So the framework, instead of should and should not, because the question is obviously not asking you should and should not, it's asking about the factors, right? So the factors that you want to consider down here, is what we call your BCC framework. Have I covered BCC with all of you before? With those that were with don't have. Have you all heard of BCC? Alright, so you want to consider what is BCC. Each of them stand for a different point. What is the benefit of reducing fuel subsidy? What is a cause or an unintended consequence of reducing fuel subsidy? And what is a constraint of fuel subsidy or reducing fuel subsidy? Is everyone following me? So if you were to adopt this BCC framework into this question, it also works fairly well here. We can see that the benefit of reducing is allocative efficiency. Do you see that? Because you are going to curb over consumption. The cost of reducing is inequity. Do you see that? So therefore you should not. And there's one more, constraint. Constraint can also work here. Okay, constraint is a wildcard. Okay, I recommend you guys to think through how to use the constraint. If not, I will show you in the answer key how to use constraint later. Okay, but at the very least, okay, today, at the end of today, you have two approaches to approach such question. Okay, you can use the thesis antithesis approach, or you can use the BCC approach for such question. Okay, make sure, okay, you are able to identify the key term, okay, government, okay, and relating your explanation to objectives first, okay, before you construct your thesis and antithesis. Okay, so for your should reduce part, make sure you use the correct framework of negative externalities, okay, and how a fuel tax can correct the overconsumption. I open and close inverted the comma. Okay, it's a reduction of fuel subsidy which acts like a fuel tax. Okay, on the other end, you want to show that, okay, how inequity will arise, okay, when you cut fuel subsidy. Okay, before we synthesize. Now I'm going to leave the synthesis to you guys. Okay, you guys can think through how you all want to synthesize. Should or should not. Okay, justify that yourself. Alright, is everyone clear? Alright, I'm going to go for a quick break. When you are back, okay, please turn on your webcam, okay, so you can kickstart with the full written practice.